Welcome back to the Forgotten Realms Reviewed. I am the Leech, and today we are continuing our journey through the Forgotten Realms. We are reading all of the Forgotten Realms novels in semi-chronological order. If you would like to click the link in the description, that will take you to a list in which all of these novels are listed in the order in which we will be reading them. Now, I have gotten some feedback on my previous video covering Swordplay, the first book that we have read, and I have decided to include a short 1 to 5 star review at the very beginning of the video, so you know if you would like to go read it first before seeing the rest of the video, where we get a little bit more in depth and really talk about the books. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. Quick note though, there will be spoilers for the first book, Swordplay, throughout the rest of this video. So if you haven't read the first book and still want to, please go do that before viewing this video. First, to recap the first book of the Netheril trilogy, Swordplay, we are introduced to our characters Sunbright Steelshanks, Greenwillow, Candlemas, and Sisquemelin. Now, Sunbright Steelshanks is our main character. He is an outcast of the Rengarth tribe of barbarians and is going on a journey to become a shaman, or a shaman, however you pronounce it. And he is being tampered with by Candlemas and Sisquemelin, who are mages that work for the Archmage of Lady Polaris. They have this wager between them whether Sunbright will die or whether he will succeed in his journey, with the wizards casting their magic and making him fall into these dire circumstances, fighting large beasts and other such things. Now, Greenwillow is a companion of Sunbright, who he meets on his journey, and they eventually end up going to the same place, which is Tanainan, where the one true king resides. The one true king being a conqueror of realms that has come to the Netheril Empire and has tried to say, this is my land now. Now, the wizards are telling their people to go and tell this king no, that he will be dealt with, as well as Greenwillow. She is from the elves of Cormanther, and they are also sending her to tell this one king, I'm sorry, but this land is spoken for. Upon reaching the city, they are captured by the one true king, and Sunbright is forced to go and get a book from a dragon and bring it to the one true king. He actually accomplishes this through his wits, tricking the dragon into going to the city of Tanainan. Taking the book with him, gives the book to the one true king, who actually reveals himself to be a lich, an undead king. And the lich and the dragon battle it out while Sunbright and Greenwillow manage to slip away. Now, Sisquemelin, unhappy with Sunbright's success, throws him and Greenwillow into the Nine Hells. Then she and Candlemas follow them in, and they end up being trapped there until Lady Polaris can come and save them. Unfortunately, Greenwillow does not make it, and Sisquemelin is sentenced to a 1-year imprisonment in the Nine Hells by Lady Polaris. And this brings us up to speed with Candlemas and Sunbright, who embark on their journey in today's book, Dangerous Games. Netheril, empire of magic, where wizards wield power far beyond the ken of mortal man. Netheril, where citadels float, magic runs wild, and mages dabble in games better left for the gods. Netheril, a place of dangerous games, where the barbarian Sunbright Steelshanks soon finds himself an unwilling pawn in a lethal match of wits, wiles, and powers. Now, I will say right off the bat here that I enjoyed Dangerous Games, Book 2 of the Netheril trilogy by Clayton Emery, a lot more than I enjoyed the first book. The first book suffered from pacing issues. The character development was not strong, or it felt lurchy at times. Therefore, I gave that book a 2 out of 5 stars, meaning I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't hate it, but it really just wasn't for me. The second book, Dangerous Games, fixes most of those issues, but still does not come across as anything amazing. I'm giving it 3 out of 5 stars, meaning I enjoyed it, and I would recommend it to anyone who is looking into the past of the Netheril, the downfall of the Netheril. Any of that history, I would recommend it to you, but don't go in thinking that this is going to be your next favorite book. Again, I will say I give it 3 out of 5 stars, an enjoyable book. Now from this point on, please be warned that there are spoilers for Book 2 throughout the rest of the video. Alright, so at the beginning of this book, Sunbright and Candlemas are allied with each other because Sunbright is looking for Green Willow's lost soul. She fell in the Nine Hells and perished. He thinks her soul can still be saved and is looking for a way to do that. Candlemas is helping him and is also kind of trying to train him to be a magic user. He senses that Sunbright has some potential. He says, you know, I'm going to train you, and Sunbright is really kind of like, man, whatever, I just need to find Green Willow. Fast forward a little bit, they find a falling star, and they actually go out to it. Candlemas says, oh, that has a lot of magic power to it, let me go investigate that. So they do, and while they are at the fallen star, they are actually teleported through time and space to the city of Karsus, which is 350 years in the future. Karsus was not even born when they were taking that star out, but he brought them forward through time so that he could have that power. Now, Sunbright and Karsus don't get along, so Karsus sends him across the city, teleports him away, and Candlemas actually starts working with Karsus because there's so much more he can learn, because magic has gone, 350 years of discovery with magic. Everybody knows a whole lot more, and society is a lot more advanced in that respect. Now, Sunbright quickly finds out that society is absolutely mental, absolutely mad. The guards are protecting the ruffians who are protecting the noblemen. All of it's kind of weird and wonky. There's a food shortage. Everybody is starving except for the nobles and the city guards. The ruffians who are paid by the nobles will beat up pretty much anybody, no matter what, just because they are getting, food for their families. He runs into a character named Knucklebones. She is a new main character in this book. Again, Emery is not good at naming characters. She is a half-elf, kind of a rogue character. She's tough, though, so she gets this name of Knucklebones, but it just, something about the name rubs me the wrong way. Anyway, so Knucklebones brings Sunbright back to her hideout with her, rogue-esque friends, and they proceed to kind of go about stealing food and stuff, but once Knucklebones and Sunbright are out doing something, they come back and all of their friends are being murdered by the guards and whatnot, and turns out it was actually a nobleman who Sunbright had earlier angered that gets all of Knucklebones' friends killed. Candlemas, in the meantime, falls in love with a Aquisita, which it's a weird name, but not terrible. Not Knucklebones. He falls in love with her and is realizing that Karsus, the leader of the city, the leader of pretty much all of the mages anywhere, the best mage there ever was, is actually really insane. Knucklebones and Sunbright are on the run from the guards, from the noblemen, from everybody. They decide to ask Candlemas for some help. He gives them a flying machine that takes them down to the earth, because Karsus is actually a floating city going around Netheril, just floating. That's actually a mountain top that's been cut off and turned upside down, and a city is on top of it. That's pretty much how most of the cities in Netheril, yeah. Anyway, all the cities are pretty much like that now that it's 350 years in the future, whereas from their time it was most cities, but not all of them. So Sunbright and Knucklebones go down to the Earth, and they are waylaid by mutants, basically. Turns out that there was an accident with one of the enclaves that were floating through the space, where actually Karsus had used some of his new magic, his heavy magic. It's this liquid magic that he can put on things and hurl it anywhere. He actually caused one of the magical items that causes the enclaves to float to stop working, but on a different enclave. Not his own, somebody else's. Obviously. Why would you test it on your own? So, he tested it on somebody else's enclave, and it started to fall, and there was a bunch of terrible magic that spilled onto the land and corrupted the forest, and turned these people into mutants. They can't defeat them, and they get captured, and Knucklebones and Sunbright are basically... Sunbright actually ends up dying. Sunbright dies, Knucklebones is probably going to as well, and then something weird happens. Sunbright comes back to life with the powers of the Earth magic or something, he says. He basically becomes the shaman he was looking to be, and he defeats all the mutants, and they go back up to the city where Karsus is planning to steal the power of Mistral and become a god himself, which of course is what causes the downfall of the Netherrim. And the Farim, it turns out, the crazy stone tornado things full of magic power, actually were causing this. They influenced him from the background, made him insane, kind of. And then, Candlemas, he goes to Karsus and convinces him to give him the time spell to travel them back to their own time, which he successfully does, although without his beloved Aquasita that he has met here, and that's the end of the tale. Sunbright, Knucklebones, and Candlemas go back to their own time, except for Knucklebones. She gets ripped into the past, but she ends up living rather than the rest of the people in Karsus. And now Sunbright says, I'm going to go see my own people again. And Candlemas is like, well, I guess I'm going to go just live in the woods and not be bothered because I've seen too much of magic. People go insane. I don't want to go insane. Nothing good has happened. He actually gets a good character arc where he's like, I'm learning maybe magic isn't the cure for everything. So that's basically the synopsis, the long-winded synopsis of the book. I will say I have some notes here. I want to talk about each character individually and then some stuff in general. So I'm going to start out with Knucklebones, since she is the new character to the book. First of all, she really, really hates Sunbright at the beginning. He actually, one of the first things he did was kill her lover in releasing a gnome from being beaten up by all these ruffians and these noblemen working together just to, rain terror on the town. He saves a gnome and angers one of the nobles, who he lets get away, but he kills a ruffian, and that is Knucklebones' lover. So she already hates him. Then it turns out that noble gets revenge on Sunbright by going and killing all of the friends of Knucklebones. So again, big reason to not like Sunbright. But then when they get down to Earth, off of the floating city of Karsus, she suddenly starts to see something in him. She starts to fall for him, and then he dies absolutely selfless, only thinking of her and her safety, and she's like, oh, I love him. She falls in love with him. Sunbright, seeing so much of Green Willow in her, which I'll get to that in a minute, falls in love with her as well. I don't know about that character arc. I mean, I can kind of see where he wanted to go with this, like, oh, she really hates him, but then she starts to love him sort of thing. But it comes on too quickly for me. Now, like I said, this book is better with character relationships and stuff like that, but that moment didn't work. She actually has great characterization throughout the entire book, but that moment did not work for me. But let's move on to Sunbright. So his relation to magic is interesting. He didn't really have any in the first book. He kind of had some visions sometimes. He talked to a raven, but didn't really have anything promising. And in this book, he doesn't really do much either. He does have more visions, though. He has plenty more visions, so I can see him being kind of like a clairvoyant type of shaman. But then all of a sudden he dies. He feels his soul creep down into the earth, and he feels this earth magic. And he jumps up out of the earth completely healed and just has all these powers that he even says in the book, oh, I'll probably never have these again because now, I was touched by the earth magic, but now that I have been, I'm at an influx of power. This is the most I'll ever have, and I'll be, more shamanistic from now on. But he can fly, he can heal, he can do all these cool things that just all of a sudden. And I wish that Emery had actually built up his powers just a little bit more. I mean, I understand, him dying was more of the catalyst than anything, connecting to the earth in that final way. But I wish that he would have hinted that was a possibility a little bit more, rather than just the visions. Now, Sunbright, I said he fell in love with Knucklebones because she reminds him so much of Greenwillow. Now, did Sunbright just forget about Greenwillow? I know he doesn't, because he talks about her all the time, but it's kind of weird. Emery makes it clear that Sunbright sees a lot of Greenwillow in Knucklebones. He's supposed to be looking for her soul, for Greenwillow's soul. Is he just putting that aside for Knucklebones now? Has he moved on, or does he see Knucklebones as a reincarnation of Greenwillow? It's 300 years in the future. Maybe Knucklebones has Greenwillow's soul in her. Maybe she's reincarnated into this new person. I don't know. I would have liked to see the rationale behind why Sunbright falls in love with Knucklebones, rather than having to infer it. But I don't know. Maybe that makes it a little bit more interesting. I'd like to hear all your thoughts about, what did all you think about the book and this part in particular here. But on the other flip side of things, you got Sunbright and Candlemas. Their interplay actually works a lot better in this book. They've kind of got this weird, I don't know. It's a one of them's really wise, but he's not really wise, and that's Candlemas. He's got all this knowledge of magics and how the world works and all this, but he actually ends up learning more about what he thought he knew throughout the course of the book. And you have Sunbright, who's the bumbling idiot, who actually turns out to be kind of the wise one. And between the two of them, they just have this weird chemistry where it's just like, I wish you were, as smart as me, says Candlemas. And then Sunbright kind of just bumbles along his way, and Candlemas is like, oh, wow, he's actually doing, he's more knowledgeable than me. Candlemas learns a lot through Sunbright, and I think when they interact, it was kind of funny but just really, really well done. Candlemas actually develops a personality that I don't hate, which, in the first book he was just like, oh no, he's kind of the white rabbit, I'm late for an important date, oh no, Sisquemlin, can't we stop this bickering and this fighting over Sunbright? I wish I could just get back to my work and fuzzle and bother and brr. But now he's like, Oh, so much to learn, so much great things in the city of Karsus. Oh, being Karsus's special friend, as he calls him in the book. Oh, this is so great. I get to learn all about magic. Oh, but then he realizes magic is kind of crazy. Everyone here is kind of crazy. Maybe I should just get down to earth a little bit. He actually develops like a, he was before very nervous and very wanted to just get into his work and everybody leave him alone. But then once he gets a chance to do that, he realizes that, man, there's more to life than just this, because just this is pulling everything apart. And I actually like that about his character arc in this book. Although I will say the whole Acquisita plot line was just weird and just terrible. I didn't like it. It was just he's getting this characterization, and then he goes to this Acquisita and he's just, I'm absolutely falling for this woman for no reason at all, which I will say I hated the plot line, and Acquisita herself was an unconvincing character, because she fell for Candlemas for apparently no reason, and we don't really get anything more than that. But how Candlemas reacts to her is fantastic. He can see that she's falling for him. He doesn't know why. He doesn't know how to act. He doesn't know what to do. And I'll say in the last book and in this book, Emery makes it very, very well. He makes a point. He's very good. He's very in his element when he writes about idiot men trying to have a relationship with a woman. Because just the stupidest things come, just, they blow it up inside their minds, but then everything just kind of works out, But yeah, he's just the bumbling idiot man trying to have a relationship, just those mental cogs working. He's really good at it. Now, I will say, Karsus, he's not how I imagined him. Not at all. I already knew kind of how Netheril fell. I know all about the, him trying to become a god, and then the whole city getting destroyed. But I saw him more as a wise, I'm trying to do this for the sake of magic. Kind of how a scientist, for the sake of science, let's, tear people apart and sew them to each other. Kind of like the Nazis in the Second World War. They would take people and they do experiments on them for the sake of science. And I saw him more of that sort of insanity. We must do everything to discover. We must, reach for the stars, an Icarus sort of character. But he comes across as just stupid insane. He's just petulant. He's arrogant. He's got no off button. He's just like a little kid, just oh, this is so much fun. Whee! And just kind of everyone's taking a toll from it, which I expected to happen anyway. But he's a lot more childlike than I would have liked him to be. I think Emery could have given him more depth. He came across as a two-dimensional character. You saw more of Candlemas's reactions, and so his character grew, but Karsus just kind of was always this insane little clown child with ultimate power. And I wish that Emery could have given him more depth. For Lady Polaris, she does make a cameo appearance in this book. I don't know why. It kind of shows how bad stuff has gotten, because in the first book she was this this shining star of beauty and perfection, and in this book she's overweight and absolutely paranoid, ends up getting assassinated. She gets maybe 5-6 pages throughout the book, and I don't know why. It's just, it shows how bad stuff has gotten, but I don't know. I wouldn't have included her, I don't think. I will say that the Enclave of Karsus, all of the arrogance that the people of Netherrim have towards the fall of Netheril, I think is very well fleshed out. The noblemen are paying off the guards. They're doing all for themselves and leaving nothing for the blue collar workers of the city. They're running through their resources. They're not holding anything back. They're just absolutely, decadence is ruining them. And I think that is very well fleshed out in this book, and I think that's the real reason why I recommend it to people who are interested in the fall of the Netherrealm. I think it's actually absolutely wonderful in that respect. I would like to have seen more of the Farum, knowing that what their role was in the book. It was big. They were scheming against Karsus the whole time. They were kind of driving him to madness in the background, but he didn't really give them any foreground time until like the very end, and then it's like half a page. Oh, the Farum show up, and well, that didn't work. And it's just kind of I wish I would have liked to have them more of a hands-on part in the book, but I understand why he did what he did with it, but I would like to see more of them in the foreground. Other than that, I just at the end of the book, I really want them all to just go on an adventure together, because I think they would make a great little party, little campaign party. You get your rogue and knucklebones, you get your barbarians. God, I forgot his name, Sunbright. And Candlemas is, of course, your wizard. And, that would make a nice little party to just go off and do things. But they want to split up at the end of the book, and we'll see how that turns out in the third book. So again, guys, I really liked this book more than the first book. It was genuinely an enjoyable ride. It wasn't the greatest. There's definitely problems with it, but I would recommend this book to anybody who's interested in the Fall of Netherrealm at all. You don't necessarily have to read the first book, but you might kind of be lost on where the characters come from if you do that. I understand the first book's not the greatest, but maybe it's enough to sit through it to get to this one. I don't know. Y'all can decide. Let me know if you have read this book, what you thought of it, and let me know if you enjoyed my synopsis of the book before the review. I know that it's a really long video, but in the future we won't have to get through the previous book before doing the one that we are currently doing. So it should be shorter from here on out, but do leave a comment down below. Let me know how I can improve this channel. I know I'm not very good at this yet, and I need to improve, so just let me know how I can do that. Hit the like button if you liked it. If you want to see more of this, definitely subscribe, because I will be doing more of these. And final thing here, there is a quick announcement that I will be doing a playthrough of Icewind Dale Enhanced Edition. It's the video game for actually set in the Forgotten Realms. There is a novelization of this game, but I am told that the novelization is not as good as playing the game itself. So not to ruin myself, I will be playing this game before I even touch the novelization. I will be streaming this on Twitch. I do not have a schedule that I will be streaming it. I'm just streaming it there so that I can get that raw video and have it uploaded somewhere. If there is a call for it, I will upload it again here on YouTube. But for now, I want to keep this channel just dedicated to the books. But if you do want to follow that, my username is an honorable leech, Honorable Leech, on Twitch. If you want to follow that, if you're interested, awesome. Like I said, I will be playing that and then reading the novel, just so I don't spoil the game for myself, because I do want to play it. I've never played it before. So with that, everyone, it is farewell for another week, which we will then be reviewing Mortal Consequences, the third and final book in the Netherrealm trilogy by Clayton Emery. Until then, everyone, farewell.